let's be real. Jealousy is a total minefield, right? But then you add in DMs, secret online friends, late-night texts, and it just feels impossible to figure out. So what if I told you the reason you and your partner get jealous over completely different things has way less to do with your relationship and a whole lot more to do with your ancient brain? We're about to dive into why your brain's programming is basically stuck in the Stone Age and what that actually means for modern love.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a tough question. I want you to imagine you're in a serious, committed relationship, and you find out your partner has cheated. But there are two very different ways it could have happened. So which one of these would honestly hurt you more?
Okay, so on one hand, you've got the deep emotional connection. You know, them sharing their biggest secrets and their dreams with somebody else. Or, on the other hand, it's a purely physical act. Passionate, sure, but with absolutely zero emotional strings attached. Think about it for a sec. Pick one. Because your answer, it probably reveals a lot more about you than you think. And here is the twist. A major study shows that your gender is actually the biggest predictor of your answer. And what's even crazier, all the DMs, the dating apps, decades of the internet, none of it has changed that fundamental wiring one bit. Our jealousy triggers are ancient. So the real question is, why?
Well, to understand what is going on in our heads today, we actually have to go way, way back and take a look at our brain's original programming.
This all comes down to a field called evolutionary psychology. And the core idea is pretty simple. Our brains are basically running on software that was designed thousands of years ago. Software made to solve the life or death problems our ancestors were facing. So yeah, we've got smartphones and fiber internet, but our emotional responses, a lot of the time, they're still stuck back in the Stone Age. For our male ancestors, the biggest, most terrifying fear was something called paternal uncertainty. And it boils down to this. Is this kid really mine? See, a partner's sexual affair was a catastrophic threat because it meant he could end up spending his entire life hunting for and protecting another man's child while his own genetic line just died out. Now, for an ancestral woman, the challenge was totally different. She always knew the child was hers, but her survival and her child's survival depended completely on her partner's resources and protection. So for her, a partner's emotional infidelity was the ultimate threat. Because if he formed a deep bond with someone else, he might divert that crucial support system, food, shelter, safety, to a new family, leaving her and her children completely vulnerable. And that brings us right back to today. The internet has existed for just a tiny, tiny fraction of human history. It's like a blink of an eye. And that means our ancient jealousy alarm system, which was hardwired over millennia, has had literally zero time to adapt. It can't tell the difference between a real-life threat and a digital one. Now, that is a fascinating theory, but is there any actual proof? You bet there is. Researchers decided to put this whole thing to the test. They set up an experiment to see if these ancient instincts fire off the same way when cheating happens online. So they gathered 332 university students, people who grew up with the internet. If anyone's brain should have adapted to the digital world, it would be theirs, right? Well, let's see what they found. They posed the exact same dilemma we started with. What's worse, a deep emotional affair or a purely physical one? But this time, they added a really crucial twist to the experiment. So half the people were asked about a conventional face-to-face affair. The other half, though, were asked about an online affair. We're talking cybersex versus a deep emotional bond formed entirely online. This was the key. This was how they could see if the digital world changed the rules. So, what was the verdict? Do our ancient brains freak out the same way over a DM as they do over a real-life affair? Let's take a look at the data. All right, first up, the classic, face-to-face affair. And the results were textbook evolutionary psychology. A whopping 62% of men said sexual infidelity was the bigger betrayal. But for women, only about 34%. I mean, that is a massive gap, and it's exactly what the theory predicts. But here is the real shocker. When the affair moved online, look what happened. The numbers shift down a little bit, okay? But the pattern is identical. Men are still way more threatened by cybersex, while women are still way more hurt by a deep emotional connection that's formed over texts and DMs. So here's the crucial point. Our brains don't really know the difference. The very same ancient alarm bells that were designed to detect threats to, paternal certainty and resource investment are now being triggered by pixels on a screen. Okay, so that's the science, and it's super fascinating. But what does it actually mean for you, when you see a weird DM on your partner's phone? Let's get into the takeaways. So here's the bottom line. That gut punch of jealousy you feel, it's ancient. And even though online cheating might feel a little less severe to most people, the core triggers are exactly the same. Men are wired to react more to sexual betrayal, and women to emotional betrayal. Now listen, this is not an excuse for bad behavior. It's the opposite. Knowing why you or your partner feels a certain way is a powerful tool to start a real conversation instead of a fight. But hold on, there is one last critical detail here. While our ancient reactions are the same, our modern definitions are not. The study found that women are much more likely than men to see cybersex as actual cheating. And this is huge. It means even if your gut reactions are pre-programmed, you still have to talk about and define what the rules are in your own relationship. Your instincts aren't going to do that for you. So that leaves us with this. Our brains are running Stone Age software in a world of high-speed internet. Knowing this, how do you build a modern relationship? How do you talk to your partner when your own brain is screaming about survival threats that might not even exist anymore? That, right there, that's the real challenge.